All right, let's stipulate that none of us are members of the Council on Foreign Relations or experts on Iran. But as close watchers, I'm a little confused. You read the Ayatollah's tweets, as we did a little while ago, very bellicose, very belligerent, very no yielding. And yet the president says they're begging to come to the White House to talk to him. They are meeting with the Europeans tomorrow. I love the Europeans, always desperate to help solve a crisis. Yeah, we'll do it tomorrow rather than how about today or yesterday.
By the way, the idea of European help is we'll tell the Americans what to do.
Exactly. Dan, what's your sense? Are the Iranians looking for a deal because they're afraid of regime change or having their country bombed back into the Stone Age, or what?
I honestly don't know. I would think they would want a deal to stop the bombing to preserve their power and preserve the nuclear program, because as several people in the chat are saying, what Sean just laid out, or what Trump would be laying out under such a scenario, is the Barack Obama exactly what he did. I mean, that is exactly what
minus the pallets of cash.
You know, they still are doing business with China. They're still having piles of cash. Like, that's it. I mean, that's the farce of the whole thing. But the reality is there's a reason 5 presidents haven't gone to war there, because they all are staring into the same abyss right now, or prior, and now that Trump is now. I don't know, Mark. I just don't see
Sean,
how that can be squared.
I think there's 2 existential things we talked about yesterday that are still maybe not the number one issue, but are tertiary issues that are getting brought up in the sit room. The economic impact of what will have happen to oil. Therefore, in the middle, and again, it might be crass to discuss, but we are in the middle of the beginning of the summer travel season. So suddenly saying, Mr. President, before we go, I just want to let you know every American's going to pay, $1 more a gallon of gas and get pissed at you. Second is, what is China going to do eventually? Because at some point, Chairman Xi is going to get off the sidelines and start being a little bit more boisterous. And I think that those 2 issues are coming up and not getting discussed the way that they should be in terms of how this is playing out, because this is all like, if you bomb, I mean, Dan has really, I think rightly so, brought this up. Like, once you hit the bomb, that's the easy part, to be honest with you. We all get it. Like, there is some question about whether it will be effective because it hasn't been used at this level before. 2, do the Israelis potentially have some other options? But beyond that, the next 10 steps are the real big ones. Those are the ones that matter. The easy one is drop this bomb. Then it becomes what happens next, who reacts to it, what happens with the cost and price of oil, what does the rebuilding look like, what does regime change look like? Those, to me, are the follow-on questions, are what's holding up a decision.
Okay, it's almost 5 p.m. in Iran right now. So that's the time difference. What time operationally, Sean, would this attack occur if it happened? Would it occur at night in Iran and therefore daytime in the United States?
It's a good question. I think if you think about the refueling effort and everything else, I mean, I would assume that you would drop at night, probably on a Friday or a Saturday. So if we're going, I would imagine
at night in Iran.
Right, in Iran, and go over the weekend. I mean, the beginning. So you'd probably go tomorrow about just at, so if it's 9:21 now, I would probably launch at noonish tomorrow from the US.
Noon Eastern time.
Yeah.
And how long would the whole mission take?
I mean, well, it takes, I got to look at the flying time. I mean, it sounds like a very Tucker Carlson question.
Yeah, well, here's why I'm asking. Like, in the world in which we live now, like, you go on Twitter now, you can see all sorts of videos of American hardware moving around the world, right? Refueling and ships docking and all this stuff. So it seems like if the B-52s take off either from Missouri or from overseas, it's possible somebody's going to know. The president's not going to announce the mission unless Pete Hegseth jumps the gun. The president's not going to announce the mission until the B-52s have left Iranian airspace.
Correct.
So I'm trying to figure out.
My guess is that you're looking at about a 20 probably 20 something hour flight time with refueling. So you'd have to green light this thing pretty soon. Now, remember, once they're in air, you can still call it off. I mean, like,
you can. He did that. And he did that previously.
But
let's say my point is, let's say the president decides today in the sit room, yeah, let's do this, and they say we're going to do this at midnight in Iran to minimize casualties, right? So if you're saying it's a 20-hour one-way flight for the mission.
Again, I'm not.
Yeah.
I think it's probably a little longer than that if you went straight with refueling.
Right. So my point is, like, if he wants to do it Friday, he gotta put him in the air pretty soon.
Right.
And then again, the question is, every day that goes by, it seems to me it becomes harder to launch anything in complete secrecy.
Well, remember though, the other piece is this: once you launch, you either have to you either abort the mission or you drop the ordinance, right?
Yeah.
Those are the only two options.
Yeah.
And if you drop, you drop. We all get that. But if you don't drop, that's a bigger problem because now you've blinked and you can't blink again
unless he gets something out of it. And we've got this talk negotiation. So just the timing is a little weird, right? If the president wants to launch it, he's going to have to, and he's got to wait till they're out of there before it's announced. But it could leak out at any time. And then what do we say? We're all sitting around waiting for them, tracking them. Some kid with some software is tracking them for 20 hours from Missouri to Iran. I just haven't heard anybody discuss this. It just seems a little weird.
So what I don't know is there's a difference between some of the bigger planes because of the tail numbers or whatever. I don't know that that the stealth is going to be picked up.
I was just going to say, and
those guys can take off in a way. They intentionally, there's a difference between wanting to show, like I said, back in the day, we used to put bombers out on the tarmac in Guam just to be like a big FU, to be like, hey, guess what? We're ready. There's a big difference between showing your cards to do a little saber rattling. It's like moving a carrier. It's projection. But in those, I think that you could probably sneak a B-52 out or B-2 out without anyone knowing.
Well, they probably also are doing training runs and everything. So I don't think it's like all of a sudden the car rolls out of the garage and everyone's like, "Whoa, we haven't seen that car in a while." Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I've not seen a report of a B-52 out right now. Maybe there has been. But the other thing is, the president should go to Camp
stealth planes.
I know the president should go to Camp David. Like, he should stop talking because if the planes are in the air, presumably he will stop talking. So he should stop talking now. So
I don't know.
I don't agree with that. I think part of it is the second that they go, that's when you want to be like, tick, 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 buddy. Guess what? Now that you're on the clock.
President come out and say the B-52s are in the air. Now's the time to surrender.
No. But I'm saying that, like, the idea of going silent to me would be a tell.
Would be a tell. Yeah, I agree.
Well, no, because it will be a tell. But what I'm saying is, the sooner the better, because if he does go silent, it will be a tell. But he should go silent before. He should say, still no decision, but then be silent.
But here's the point. If he goes silent, again, you're basically on the clock. Everyone's like, okay, that's a tell. Yeah. My point was, the more you're talking, if the only ones you want to know that you're potentially going are the Iranians saying, hey, guess what?
Yeah.
The countdown clock just started.
They say that something that's easy is like a walk in the park. Well, easier than a walk in the park, hit the subscribe button, be part of the two-way community, never miss an episode, be part of our conversations. Thank you for your service to America.